terms of my experience of AoEC, so I did the Practitioner Diploma I started in May 2018 and finished in September 2018. So I've been coaching for probably about 3 years or so. And how it came about was, up to that point in time, I'd had a career in various leadership managerial roles across all three sectors: private sector, charity sector, and also government sector, but primarily doing kind of business change stuff. So a lot of what I did was I went into organizations, and I wasn't the subject matter expert. I basically facilitated subject matter experts to work out where they were and where they were trying to get to, and shape their thinking as to how they were going to make that happen. And in many ways, there's a real parallel there in terms of coaching, in the sense that in coaching, you're not the expert, the client's the expert, and you're just facilitating their thinking as to what it is they want to achieve. And I was thinking about coaching, and I'd had various conversations with friends and colleagues about coaching, and I was working for a large charity. We were making savings. It was a drug and alcohol addiction charity. Budgets were being cut because it was local authority funding. I took the opportunity to take redundancy, and I was looking at more similar roles. And when I was looking at the charity sector, it was a tough time, and a lot of the funding was tight, and a lot of them were running deficits. And I thought, is this what I want to do? Do I want to go back into another role like that, where a bit like the stress that you spoke about, Emma, is that what I want to do? Because I'll either be doing transformation where I'm transforming people out of the business, or my role's a role that quite easily gets cut. And I reflected on it, and I thought I'd quite fancy doing trying coaching. I started having some conversations. I started looking at various courses, and I looked at some of the characters like Ashridge, etc., which charge an arm and a leg. And I also spoke to a lady who I used to work with, who worked in HR, who had a friend who was doing the AoEC diploma at the time, Practitioner Diploma. And she was actually on it at the time. And so I chatted to her about it, and I liked the length of time. I liked the fact it gave you the depth of understanding that you could come out and coach at the other end, but it wasn't the full year, which seemed like too long for me at the time, but I had no previous coaching experience. I liked the affordability, the price tag. I had another friend who was a coach who I hadn't quite realised. He'd been a coach for quite a number of years, and he'd actually done the first ever one-year version of the practitioner with AoEC many years ago, and he also spoke very highly of it. And so I didn't do a lot more research than that. I went to a taster session very much like this one, like what I had to hear, and signed up and started doing the May of 2018. My experience was fantastic. It was good on many levels. It was good because the learning was good. It was good the way that we learned, the experiential learning that Alan referred to, the nervousness that you went into when you were learning about the different approaches, etc., and the AoEC model, and thinking, am I really going to be able to do this at the other end? And the very fact, as Alan says, in every day on the course, you will go into breakout rooms and you will take it in turns to be the client, the coach, and the observer. And you just get used to playing those different roles. And you learn as much by observing as you do by coaching. You learn as much by being the client as you do by being the coach, etc. And it's really rich learning material. So you hear the theory and then you break straight out into go and put it into practice. And the model that they use is simple to get your head around in terms of the kind of the beginnings and middles and endings approach to the coaching process, etc. So that was really, really rich. I also liked one of the techniques that you just used, Emma, is part of a group of creative techniques that they use on the course. And at first I thought it was a bit West Coast America, a bit wacky, and I wasn't too sure. I come from a very kind of process background, and it seemed a bit fluffy, you know, and yet actually there was a similar experience to yours where someone got quite emotional using one of the creative techniques, and it was interesting to see how they take you outside of a normal dialogue, and you get to see yourself from a different perspective, and I've become really wedded to them in terms of the power, and I still use them regularly with my clients to get them to see their challenge from a different perspective, almost outside in, if you like. And so that was really valuable as well. I really liked that. It was great. The people on my course, there were people who were coaches but not trained. There were people who were not coaches, never done any coaching like me. There were people who wanted to be freelance coaches, which is what I set out as. There were people who were internal coaches in organisation who wanted some training. So it was a really rich mix, and it was good. It was very friendly, welcoming. The way you work together means that you become a very supportive group of people who get to know each other well. Because the other thing is, of course, it's quite a personal space, a coaching space, and so in your practice coaching, client coach, observer, you are really showing up for each other every time that you meet. And then there's lots of stuff outside of the actual classroom, should we call it, area where you still work together in small groups, etc. You better understand the practices that you're developing, etc. So that was also really helpful. And then the other thing that I found quite surprising was how much self-reflection I did as I got my head around what it was going to be like to be a coach, etc. So it's quite a personal journey. I find it quite a personal journey to go on as well, which I thought was really beneficial because I'd never had coaching, I'd never had any therapy or anything like that before. But it's quite a supportive, safe space to think through, how it is you want to coach and how you're going to go about it, etc. So the whole experience was very good, is what I would say in terms of the actual course. I did it because it was back in 2018, it was pre-pandemic, so I did it face-to-face. And I loved the face-to-face thing. And then, as Alan alluded to, I thought I wanted to do systemic team coaching. I did the practitioner coaching first because I was of the view I needed to get my head around coaching an individual before I thought I wanted to start coaching teams. But I did come back to that and look at doing that. And I did that last year, and I did that in a virtual situation like this. And at first I was a bit nervous and I thought, shall I wait until we're back doing training face-to-face? Thank goodness I didn't wait. Instead I did it in a virtual environment, and actually through the use of breakout rooms, etc., it still worked, it still delivered. It was still a really positive experience. So I wouldn't have any issues in terms of recommending doing the practitioner from a virtual perspective as well. And then just a little bit in terms of what happened next. When I finished doing the coaching, when I actually started doing the coaching, I decided that I thought whilst I was doing the coaching, I'd do a bit of contracting. So I started doing contracting in the area that was kind of my day job before, so kind of project management, program management. And I was lucky enough to pick up 3-day-a-week contracts, which allowed me to attend my training and allowed me to do some of the practice client work that you need to do as part of the course. And then I continued that on after I'd finished doing the coach training. So my bread and butter income was my 3-day-a-week contracting, and I was developing the coaching practice in parallel and as you start develop an income stream from it. And I had a sequence of 3-day-a-week contracts, and then back end of last year, that's a lot of those were charity sector, and I was a bit concerned the charity sector might be having a tough year and work might be a bit tight in that environment. A lady who was actually in my cohort when I did the practitioner was going on maternity leave and asked the cohort with her training if anyone wanted to do her maternity cover. And I opted to do a maternity cover, and I started working as an internal coach 4 days a week for an organisation called Robert Walters. So what was great was in effectively the bread and butter income then actually became coaching rather than another role. And that's gone on over the course of the last year, and will convert into a perm role next year, 3 days a week. So I can put more time into the private practice, as you like. So I'm doing external coaching 2 days a week next year, and 3 days a week I'll be doing the internal coaching, and it's a lovely mix. So I think in a nutshell, that is probably my story.